Hi, my name's Paul. I'm co-founder and co-owner of Easy Estimate. One of the things I do day to day is speak to a lot of our customers, and a lot of our customers want to create their own calculators and templates. So rather than doing lots of one-to-one sessions, I thought I'd do this video to help people get up to speed, maybe a little bit quicker. And then if you want to reach out and we can do a one-to-one session after we've gone through the basics of this video, that would probably help. So first thing we're going to do is get stuck straight in by going into a design mode calculator. So to access the design mode, you need to go through admin and then job templates. This will then take you to the area where you can view all of the calculators and templates that we have in Easy Estimate, and you can see your own ones and create your own ones. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create a brand new one, but you can also take copies of ones you've done previously and also of system calculators if you want to get up to speed very, very quickly. We're going to create a brand new one, and I'm going to call it example. Nothing too fancy there. And then we are going to, once created, open up the details. There's three main sections of a calculator, and that's your variables, which is here, the calculations, and the items. So we'll go through each section and we'll add some very basic information, and then I'll show you how they all work and how they can work together. So to create a new line, you just click on the new, much like everything else in the system. I'm going to add a couple of lines in here because I'm going to be asking for two variables. The first thing we are going to be asking for is the length. Now, it doesn't really matter too much what in this example what it's for, but I'm going to ask the user of this calculator to put in the length of something and also the height, and I'm going to put the unit as linear meters. This here is the name of the variable. This is used later on in the calculations and maybe in the items to work things out. You can basically put pretty much whatever you like in here, but I would suggest that you keep it reasonably simple so you remember what the name of it is later on. In the description, this is the part that gets shown to the user. So we will put something a little bit more verbose in here, something like length of run, and maybe here height of run. So what this is going to do is ask for two numeric types of data once we actually use this calculator. There are different line types. I won't go into them too much at the moment, but you have the option to also have a Boolean. Now a Boolean is just programming language for yes or no, or true or false, and a list. So you can have a list of items. So in there, for example, some of our calculators, you are able to select what size skip or muck away that you want, and we can make the calculator work out different items based on what is in that list. We're going to keep it pretty simple for this one. We're just going to ask for a number, a numeric one. We're going to go across to the calculations now, and we're going to create a new calculation. So what we need to do at the beginning is we need to set another variable, which will then be the result of a calculation. So for example, on this, I want to know the meters squared area of these two variables times together. So I am actually going to call this area meters squared. Now once I've set my variable, I need to put an equals, and now I can use the variables that I've set up before to actually populate that new variable area underscore meter squared with some new information. So if I say length times height, and I'm going to put in linear meters again, and I'm just going to put a description in here, the area of the run, you will now see that I have a calculation in there, and the calculation is going to use the length and the height of the item, sorry, of the variable. I'm now going to create a new item, and say, for example, I'm going to need some plasterboard. Now, these can be much more complicated than this. This is a very, very basic calculator just to give you an idea of what it is. This isn't going to work out the packs of plasterboard you need. It's just going to tell you the meter squared of plasterboard you need. If you were to do this properly as a calculator, you would actually put in the size of the plasterboard per material. So it would actually tell you how many packs of plasterboard you needed to do this. I'm not going to do that for this example. I'm just literally going to put this in so you can see how it works. So under the quantity, I have put the new variable that we set in the calculation as area meters squared. So what will happen when I use this calculator called example, the quantity will be populated by the area meters squared, which is then in turn based off the length and the height. So now we've got that all in. I will just put a price in here. Again, we could use the lookups and everything from the database. I'm going to keep it simple for the time being. So I'm just going to say it's £12 a metre square. So I am going to now go onto a job. I'm just going to clear that information off. Right, I'm going to use that new calculator that I've just created. So I can use this quick search bar off the costing sheet and select example. It then prompts me for the two variables. So what is the length of the run? I'm going to say it's 8 meters and it's going to be 2.4 high. So what you'll see is the calculation has now done the sums, 2.4 times 8, and it has also used that quantity that is worked out through the calculator, the meter squared. It'll give you a unit price and then it will give you your total price. Now don't worry too much about the actual numbers in there or what it's actually doing. It's more how it's doing it that is the important thing. So you can see there that we have built up this calculator so far just based on a couple of inputs. Now I'm going to go back to that calculator, back into design mode, and we're going to add a couple more items on there. So in this calculator, we might want to plasterboard both sides. So I am going to put a new variable in here called both sides. That's going to be a Boolean. Now what that means is it's going to be a tick box. Is it going to be true or false? So I'm basically saying to the user, would you like plasterboard or double plasterboard, whatever it might be. And I can now put in here again, don't worry too much about the actual content. It's more to show you how the calculators work. So I'm now going to put a new line in here, and we're just going to say we want a double plasterboard. Really, there's nothing particularly clever about that. So all I'm doing is I'm copying the information from that line there and putting it in. So in theory now that will work out double the plasterboard that we had before. But actually, what we want to do is on the condition, we want a condition that says if both sides is true, then show this line. And if it is false, do not show the line. So what we can do here is set this. We can use true or we can use 1 or 0. Oops, and I need to put S in there. So you can see you can use 1 or you can actually use true as well to set that. So this is called a condition, and this means the line will only appear if a condition is met, if it's true or false. So the thing that's going to be telling this whether to show when we're using the calculator is this drop down here. Now I can set the default of what I want the calculator to show when I'm asking the user for the information, and you can see here in the design mode it will actually give you a clue to say yes, this will show if it's set to true and it will not show if it's set to false. So now I've got in there, let's go and actually have a look at how that calculator is working. So again, we'll go back to the example job and we'll pull up the example calculator. Okay, so again, we can put our length of run and our information in. And what you'll see here is there's only one item line showing at the moment. And if we tick this box, you'll see that the condition is met. So the condition becomes true. Yes, you've ticked the box. Do you want to plasterboard both sides? It will now drop in another line onto that calculation. Now we can do much more with this. We can have lists, we can have conditionals. So if you have a look at some of the existing calculators that we've already got, you can sort of reverse engineer how those work, and you can have a look at all of the conditionals that we have on all of our system calculators. But the last thing I sort of want to show on this video very quickly is if we go back again into design mode, to go back into this calculator, a lot of the time you won't want it to show you the meter squared. You want to see how much plasterboard it is that you actually want. So what we can do here is we can create another calculation, and we can say packs, or actually let's size per board. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out the size of the plasterboard based on some information that we're going to give it. So the first thing we need to do is give this item line a name, such as plasterboard. So we're going to give it that. So we're going to say the size per board is the plasterboard dot length times plasterboard dot height. Okay, now that is showing correctly in a sort of error pink at the moment, and it should be showing that because these don't exist. So what we have to do is we have to set some properties for the plasterboard. So on this particular plasterboard, we are going to add a couple of properties, and we are going to call it length, and I'm going to say it's a 1.2 sheets by 1.2. So you will now see that I have set the size of the plasterboard actually within that item line. Now what I can also do is, now I know the size per board, is I can actually say the boards needed will equal the area, meters squared, divided by the size per board. Spelled properly. And that will actually give us the unit, and it's going to be the meters squared. In fact, that's meters squared. We can then put the boards needed as an actual pack size against these things here. So if we now use that example job, oops, wrong one, and put some figures in, you'll see that actually it's working out a few other things. So it's actually worked out here, this is the size, or the meters squared, the board will cover based on the size of the board that we have selected. And it will now say how many sheets you actually need. So it's actually now giving us the amount of plasterboard sheets that we need. So 16.67, which is great, because then we can add that to our material orders and use that on our costing sheet. And it makes a lot more sense than putting in how many meters squared of plasterboard you'd have. So if you were to select a different size of plasterboard, you then just have to pop open the properties and you change the length and the height. It will prompt you to do that if you select from our materials database and the properties aren't set. So it's got a lot of safeguards in there to help you make sure that you're going to remember to actually set that. Now, one of the things is you can't order 16.64 of a plasterboard. You can't say that's how many you want. You can round it up though. So again, we're going to go to admin, job templates, and go into the example that we're working on. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to use a function called ceil, ceili, and this actually will round up the amount of boards to the nearest integer. So what that means is when we go back and we use the calculator again, and put the information in, instead of ordering 16.67 boards, we are actually going to order 17 boards. Now we obviously haven't changed the unit there, so let's just go back and do that to tidy this up a little bit. And we'll also add in a bit more description as well. So we will say each, so that now makes a lot more sense. And I'm also going to just change this. So go back in. Oops, did not want to press that button. Okay, so we're back in here.